On the morning of August 12, 2015, a story unfolded in the quiet town of Willow Creek, Kansas, that would blur the line between desperation and hope. Willow Creek, with its 4,000 residents, was surrounded by golden wheat fields and dusty highways, a place of routine, small joys, and Sunday gatherings. People here valued hard work, kept their struggles private, and made do with what they had. Yet, in a modest two-bedroom house on Maple Street, a family teetered on the edge. Mei-Ling Chen, once a sharp accountant, stood in her sparse kitchen, staring at empty cupboards. Her husband, Wei Zhang, a skilled carpenter, hadn't had steady work in nearly a year. His woodworking shop, once his pride, had burned down the previous winter. The insurance company delayed, questioned, and ultimately denied their claim. Legal battles were beyond their means. Their 3 children, Lian, 12, Kai, 9, and little Jia, 4, were too young to fully understand, but not too young to feel hunger. Lian wore the same hoodie daily, claiming it was her favorite despite its fraying sleeves. Kai hid his discomfort, though he clutched his stomach at night. Jia, with a child's bluntness, asked when breakfast would come, even when there was nothing to cook. For 3 days, the family had eaten little: a can of beans, a crust of bread, broth diluted to mimic soup. Neighbors noticed subtle changes. A local cashier recalled Mei-Ling once buying treats for her kids. Now, she rarely bought even flour or rice. Wei, once proud with sawdust on his shirt, now roamed town, asking farms and construction sites for work, only to be turned away. That August afternoon, Mei-Ling made a choice. Swallowing her pride, she took her children to St. Joseph's Church on Main Street. She had always faced hardship with resolve, but her children's hunger demanded action. Witnesses later recalled a pale woman with hastily tied hair, walking with 3 quiet children. Lian carried Jia's doll, Kai gripped his mother's hand, and their silence spoke of deep exhaustion. At the rectory, Father Michael answered the bell. He sensed the weight of the moment as he saw the children's hollow cheeks and Mei-Ling's trembling hands. "Father," she whispered, voice breaking, "we haven't eaten in 3 days. My children need help. I don't know where else to turn." Those words sparked a chain of events that Willow Creek couldn't have foreseen. A family at their breaking point, a mother's plea, and a community on the cusp of something extraordinary. What happened next wasn't just about food, it was about an unseen force moving through despair, revealing itself in ways that defied explanation. Stay with this story, because what unfolded in a modest home with peeling paint and creaking floors would transform not only the Chen family but the faith of an entire town. Before the hardship, the Chens were like many in small-town America. Their Maple Street home, with faded blue siding and a backyard swing set, held a patch of tomatoes Mei-Ling tended each summer. Wei, a carpenter for 15 years, crafted custom cabinets and restored antiques in his converted barn workshop, drawing clients from nearby towns. His craftsmanship was unmatched, the kind big stores couldn't replicate. Mei-Ling managed the books, balancing invoices and taxes while raising their children with steady care. Lian had her mother's thoughtful eyes, Kai her father's curiosity, tinkering with wood scraps, and Jia brought laughter to their home. Their life was stable until late 2014. A Wichita developer, owing Wei $40,000 for a custom kitchen, went bankrupt, erasing months of work. The Chens tightened their budget, expecting recovery. But in January, a spark in the workshop's wiring ignited a fire. By the time firefighters arrived, the barn was lost, tools, rare woods, all gone. Wei watched, helpless, as his children clung to Mei-Ling in the snow. Insurance claims stalled with denial citing unverified causes. Without tools, Wei couldn't work, and the family's stability unraveled. By March, Wei Zhang was officially unemployed. Mei-Ling Chen tried to step in, updating her resume and applying to accounting firms in Wichita, Topeka, and Kansas City. At 37, with a 7-year gap from raising her children, she faced rejection after rejection. "We've chosen another candidate. Thank you for your application." Each email felt like a door slamming shut. Their savings dwindled fast, mortgage payments, utilities, and groceries drained what little they had. By June, unpaid bills stacked up on the kitchen counter. The electric company sent warnings, the gas bill doubled, and they sold their used minivan, then Mei-Ling's wedding ring, followed by antique furniture Wei had lovingly restored. Neighbors noticed the strain. The children stopped biking to the park. Mei-Ling walked to the store with exact change, buying only essentials. Wei offered to fix fences or mow lawns for $20, a far cry from his days as a respected craftsman. Lian lied to classmates, insisting her worn shoes were her favorite. Kai grew quiet at dinner, his curiosity dimmed. Little Jia cried for food her parents couldn't provide. By July, survival teetered on collapse. Mei-Ling took cash jobs cleaning houses, scrubbing floors for money that barely bought rice. Wei sought work at nearby farms, but farmers turned him away. Sorry, not hiring. Maybe next season. At night, the couple sat silently at their kitchen table, staring at overdue bills. I feel like we're sinking, Mei Ling whispered, tears falling. Wei took her hand, his once strong calluses now trembling with defeat. Pride kept them from seeking help sooner. Every Sunday at St. Joseph's Church, they dressed neatly and smiled politely. Few knew they skipped meals to feed their children. Father Michael noticed Wei's gaunt face and Mei Ling's threadbare clothes, but their polite deflections hid the truth. By early August, their cupboards were nearly empty, and the mortgage company threatened foreclosure. The phone line was cut. On August 10th, Mei Ling scoured the kitchen, finding half a jar of peanut butter, a handful of flour, and a box of herbal tea. She mixed peanut butter with stale bread crusts, calling it a special recipe, with forced cheer. Her children ate quietly, but Lien noticed her mother's empty plate. "Mom, you're not eating," she said. Mei Ling smiled weakly. "I'm not hungry." In truth, she was starving, saving her share for Wei, who returned late, exhausted and empty-handed. The question no parent forgets haunted them, a child asking why there's no food, why their stomach hurts, whether hunger could be dangerous. That night, Mei Ling tucked her children in with a whispered prayer, unsure if anyone was listening. Lying awake, staring at the cracked ceiling, she made a decision. The next morning, she would take her children to the rectory and ask for help, a choice born of a mother's love, setting the stage for something extraordinary. By mid-August, the Chen household had crossed a dire threshold. Hunger wasn't just discomfort, it was the rhythm of their days, a shadow in every room. On Monday, Mei Ling opened the refrigerator, hoping for a miracle. Empty shelves revealed only a jar of soy sauce, half a stick of butter, and expired eggs. The cupboards held flour dust, a box of tea, and a dented can of green beans. She lined them up like a desperate inventory. Lien, watching from the doorway, whispered, "Mom, is that all we have?" Mei Ling forced a smile. "It's enough for today," she lied, her stomach twisting. That night, she boiled the green beans with flour, creating a watery stew she presented as a family recipe. Lien saw her mother's empty plate and said softly, "Mom, you didn't take any." Mei Ling brushed it off. "I'm not hungry." But her body ached with hunger, saving her portion for Wei, who returned with nothing but apologies. Tuesday was worse. Breakfast was tea with the last spoonful of sugar. For lunch, Mei Ling found a frozen bread crust, spread with the last of the peanut butter, and divided it into thirds. Kai ate quickly, then clutched his stomach. "It hurts," he murmured, holding back tears. Jia sobbed for rice or fruit, anything to ease her hunger. Wei came home late, his face etched with defeat. "No work," he said, collapsing into a chair. "They said maybe next week." Mei Ling wanted to scream, next week was too far away. Instead, she touched his shoulder. "We'll make it," she whispered, though she didn't know how. That night, alone in the kitchen, she cried into her hands. Pride had kept their struggle hidden. To neighbors, she waved and smiled, but the truth was breaking through. At St. Joseph's Church, Mei Lingchen stood tall, masking her family's struggle with a practiced smile. But inside, she was crumbling. Alone in the quiet, she whispered, "God, if you see us, if you hear me, please help my children." Wednesday morning brought a heavy, stifling heat. The children woke listless, their eyes dull, their voices faint. Mei Ling served them tea, calling it a special breakfast, though the sugar was gone. Lien sipped slowly, trying to savor it, while Kai pushed his cup away, murmuring, "It's not food." Around 10 a.m., Kai swayed and collapsed. Panic gripped Mei Ling as she caught him, his small frame trembling. "I'm fine," he insisted weakly, "just dizzy." But 3 days without proper nourishment had pushed their young bodies to the brink. Lien, old enough to voice her fears, broke the silence. "Mom, why don't we have food? What's going to happen? Are we going to be okay?" Mei Ling's throat tightened, unable to answer. She hugged her daughter tightly, whispering, "I won't let anything happen to you. I promise." But promises couldn't fill empty stomachs. By noon, Mei Ling knew pride was no longer an option. She washed her children's faces, tied Jia's hair into a neat ponytail, and announced they were going for a walk. Her heart ached. She and Wei had always been self-reliant, the ones others leaned on. Now, her children's hollow eyes left her no choice. As they walked down Maple Street, neighbors saw a mother with her 3 children, unaware that Mei Ling carried just $3.25 in change, the last money in the house. No one knew she was heading to St. Joseph's Rectory, ready to utter words that would break her pride. "My children haven't eaten in 3 days. What Mei Ling couldn't know was that this act of humility, knocking on a church door, would not lead to shame but spark a chain of events defying logic. In their darkest hour, the Chen stood on the cusp of dawn. At the rectory's old brick gate, Mei Ling's hands shook. The 2-block walk from Maple Street felt endless, her children trailing quietly. Lien clutched Jia's doll, Kai scuffed his shoes on the sidewalk, and Mei Ling held their hands, drawing courage from their touch. The rectory, a modest two-story house with peeling white shutters, seemed like an insurmountable barrier. She rang the bell, her heart pounding. Father Michael, 62, had served Willow Creek for over 2 decades. His silver hair and lined face reflected years of quiet listening. Known for gentle homilies and visiting the homebound, he had a knack for noticing the overlooked. When the bell rang, he rose from his afternoon nap, slipped on his glasses, and opened the door. He felt an unspoken plea in the air. Mei Ling stood pale, lips tight, her children clinging to her. Their gaunt faces told their story before words could. "Father," she said, voice breaking, "we haven't eaten in 3 days. My children are hungry. I don't know where else to go." The words hung like a confession. Father Michael stepped aside. "Come in, my dear. Bring the children." He led them to a modest living room with worn furniture and a crucifix on the wall. The children sat on the couch, wide-eyed and silent. He returned from the kitchen with a tray, a pitcher of milk, crackers, and a jar of peanut butter. "Here, little ones, eat." Lien hesitated, glancing at her mother, but Father Michael nodded encouragingly. The children ate eagerly, their hunger painful to witness. Kai's hands shook as he spread peanut butter on crackers. Jia clutched her milk like a treasure. Even Lien, trying to seem mature, couldn't hide her relief. Mei Ling sat quietly, tears streaming down her face, torn between gratitude and shame, feeling she had failed her family. Father Michael placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You have nothing to be ashamed of. Asking for help is love, not weakness." Slowly, Mei Ling shared their story, the unpaid invoices, the workshop fire, the insurance denials, Wei's fruitless job search, the bills piling up, selling her ring. Her voice broke as she admitted, "I thought I could shield them, but I can't anymore." Father Michael listened, his eyes kind but serious. This wasn't about sin, it was about survival. When she finished, he leaned forward. "Mei Ling, you and your children are not alone. The parish has a small emergency fund for times like this." From a wooden cabinet, he retrieved an envelope with $200 in cash, collected from parishioners for those in need. He pressed it into her hands. Mei Ling shook her head, overwhelmed. "Father, I can't." "You can," he said gently. "This isn't pity, it's community. Even Jesus accepted help from friends. Take it to feed your children tonight." Her fingers closed around the envelope, a lifeline heavier than its contents. Father Michael knew $200 wasn't a lasting solution. "I'll call around," he said firmly. "Someone may need a carpenter. If not, we'll find other ways. Your family will have food." Mei Ling struggled to speak. "How do I thank you?" "By keeping faith," he replied. "By remembering that even in the darkest times, you are seen." "He does not forget his children," Father Michael had said. When Mei Ling Chen left the rectory that afternoon, her 3 children, Lien, Kai, and Jia, walked beside her, their bellies no longer aching, their faces brighter. In her hand, the envelope with $200 felt like a fragile lifeline. She had entered trembling with shame, she left carrying a flicker of hope. Yet, none of them knew this act of courage, knocking on a priest's door, was just the beginning of something extraordinary. Late that afternoon, Mei Ling entered the Walmart on the edge of Willow Creek, her children at her side. She gripped the envelope as if it were gold. $200, more than she'd seen in weeks, was both a fortune and a thin thread keeping them from deeper despair. The store's sliding doors opened, cool air washing over them. For Lien, Kai, and Jia, the bright lights and stocked shelves felt like a dream. They hadn't been in a grocery store in weeks, their eyes darting across aisles in awe. Mei Ling clutched a carefully planned list: bread, milk, rice, pasta, canned goods, vegetables, fruit, no luxuries, just enough for a week. Still, the children couldn't help themselves. "Mom, can we get yogurt?" Kai whispered. Lien pointed to apples. "These look so good." Jia tugged her sleeve, pleading, "Cookies, Mama, please." Mei Ling's heart ached, she denied them every small joy for weeks. She nodded. "We'll see, if we can afford it." They moved through the aisles, filling the cart with essentials: milk, rice, pasta, peanut butter, frozen vegetables. Mei Ling compared prices, choosing generics, tallying costs in her head. At the checkout, the cart was modest but full: bread, eggs, cereal, chicken, apples, a few treats. Her chest tightened as she estimated the total, around $180, leaving little for emergencies. She smoothed the bills from the envelope, nerves fraying. The cashier, a kind middle-aged woman named Linda who recognized the family, smiled. "How are you today?" "We're okay," Mei Ling replied softly, her eyes betraying her tension. The scanner beeped, the total climbing: $47.62, $83.19, $128.45. Mei Ling's breath caught as it passed $150. Finally, the screen showed $187.45. Her stomach sank. She'd been right, nearly the entire envelope. She prepared to pay, but Linda frowned, tapping the screen. "That's strange," she muttered. "The register's showing $72.45 now." Mei Ling blinked. "Excuse me?" Linda shook her head. "Must be a glitch. Let me rescan." She cleared the screen, scanning each item slowly. The total appeared again, $72.45. A third scan yielded the same result. Linda looked at Mei Ling, wide-eyed. "I can't charge more than what the register says. It's $72.45 today." Mei Ling's hands shook as she handed over the cash, barely breathing. She left with her groceries and over $120 still in the envelope. As she unloaded the bags into their borrowed car, Mei Ling noticed items she hadn't chosen: olive oil, shredded cheese, a chocolate bar, even jars of baby food Jia no longer used. Panic struck. Had the children added them? "Lian, Kai, did you put these in?" They shook their heads. Jia clutched her doll, bewildered. Mei Ling checked every bag, at least $50 worth of extra food, with no memory of selecting it. She sat on the curb, the Kansas sun dipping low, as her children marveled at the abundance. The world seemed to tilt. Was this a glitch, chance, or something more? That night, the Chin family ate a real dinner for the first time in days. Mei Ling cooked pasta with cheese, served salad, and poured milk. Kai ate eagerly, Lian's eyes shimmered with tears, and Jia, sticky with yogurt and cookie crumbs, giggled. Wei came home late, weary, but froze at the sight of the table. Where did this come from? Mei Ling recounted the rectory, the envelope, the store glitch, the extra food. "You paid $72 for all this?" Wei asked, incredulous, repeating it thrice. Mei Ling nodded, tears welling. "I can't explain it." For one evening, explanations didn't matter. The clink of forks, the children's laughter, and the parents' quiet sobs filled the air, the weight of months lifting briefly. Deep in Mei Ling's heart, a thought pulsed: this isn't just luck. Something greater is at work. That Wednesday night, the Chen home hummed with life. Laughter, clinking glasses, and chatter replaced the silence. The kitchen table, once bare, held plates of pasta, salad, and warm bread. The strange grace of that supermarket trip was only the first whisper of a miracle just beginning. For the first time in days, the Chen family ate until they were full. After dinner, Wei gave Kai a piggyback ride down the hall. Lian helped her mother wash dishes, and little Jia sang to her doll. The house, long weighed down by silence, seemed to breathe again. When the children were tucked into bed and the dishes set to dry, quiet returned. Wei and Mei Ling sat in their small living room on a worn couch, a single lamp casting a soft glow over faded carpet and shelves of family photos. Outside, crickets filled the Kansas night. They spoke in hushed tones. $72, Wei said again, shaking his head. "No machine makes that mistake 3 times. Mei Ling folded her hands. "And the food we didn't buy, the baby food, the chocolate. Wei, how do we explain it?" He leaned back, weary but softened. "Maybe it's luck." Mei Ling's voice dropped. "Or maybe it's something more." At 9:15 p.m., the air shifted. A coolness swept through, though no windows were open. The lamp flickered, and a sweet fragrance, like spring roses, filled the room. Mei Ling's breath caught. "Do you smell that?" she asked. Before Wei could answer, a faint glow appeared near the bookshelf, like moonlight on water, growing brighter yet soft. Wei gripped Mei Ling's hand. The light formed a figure, a woman, radiant in a flowing white robe with a sky-blue mantle. Her chestnut hair framed a serene face, her eyes glowing with tenderness that pierced their souls. Her hands were joined in prayer, her presence radiating peace. Mei Ling's knees buckled, she sank to the carpet, trembling. Wei knelt beside her, frozen. The woman's voice, like music resonating in their hearts, spoke, "Do not be afraid, my children. I am Mary, the mother of Jesus, and your mother in faith." Mei Ling gasped, tears streaming. Wei shook, his usual steadiness gone. Mary's gaze held infinite compassion. "I have heard your prayers and seen your suffering. I was with you when you had nothing to feed your children, and when bread appeared on your table tonight. You are not abandoned." Mei Ling sobbed, words spilling out. "Was it you at the store? The groceries? The receipt?" Mary's smile warmed the room. "A mother does not ignore her children's cries. What you received was a sign that heaven sees you, and more is to come." Wei bowed his head, tears falling. "Why us? We're just a family in Kansas." Mary's reply was gentle. "In ordinary homes, in the smallest towns, God's love shines brightest. You held to each other when all was lost. You chose love over pride. That is why heaven has come to you. To Mei Ling, she said, your faith and courage as a mother will be rewarded. Your children will grow strong, not only in body but in compassion, understanding others' pain because they have known it. To Wei, she continued, your hands, though weary, will build again. Work will come soon, providing for your family and others. For nearly 10 minutes, her presence filled the room. The Chens knelt, hearts pounding, unable to look away. Mary raised her hands in blessing. Remember, you are loved. Share what you have seen. Let your story bring hope. I will always be near. Slowly, her light faded, the scent of roses lingering as she vanished into the night. Silence returned, but it was no longer empty. Mei Ling and Wei remained kneeling, hands clasped, tears flowing, overwhelmed. Hours passed before Lian crept from her room, whispering, Mom, Dad, why are you crying? Mei Ling gathered her daughter, voice trembling but steady. Because, sweetheart, tonight we met someone very special, and nothing will be the same. The next morning, Mei Ling woke with an unfamiliar calm. The scent of roses clung faintly to the curtains. She questioned if it was a dream, but in the kitchen, her doubts dissolved. The pantry door, closed the night before, stood ajar. Shelves once nearly empty were now full, cans of vegetables, boxes of cereal, bags of flour, sealed packages of chicken. Mei Ling's knees weakened. She called Wei, and they stared at the abundance. We didn't buy this, Wei whispered. No, Mei Ling replied softly, touching the items as if they might vanish. Someone else did. The children ran in, eyes alight. Lian bit into an apple, tears in her eyes. Kai shouted, we have food. Jia clapped, pointing to cookies. The miracles continued. On Thursday, Wei set out to find work, carrying Mary's words, your hands will build again. A quiet confidence replaced his dread. At Barber & Sons, a woodworking company that had previously rejected him, the owner greeted him warmly. Wei, we were just talking about you. We've got a big order coming in. Can you start next week? Wei stood stunned, nodding. The job wasn't just temporary, it offered steady pay, enough to cover bills and more. Wei, you came at the right time, the owner of Barber & Sons said. I just signed a contract to restore an old farmhouse. I need someone skilled in antique work. It starts Monday, 6 months' pay. Wei, stunned, shook the man's hand, his heart certain this was no coincidence. At home, Mei Ling found more surprises. The fridge held jars of baby food she hadn't bought. A box of hot cocoa mix appeared on the counter. Clothes in the laundry basket, once tattered, were inexplicably patched, as if mended with care. On Friday, Lian came home from school with a new backpack stuffed with supplies, pencils, notebooks, markers, everything on her back-to-school list. A lady gave it to me, she said. Her name was Mary, and she said I should be ready for class. Mei Ling's breath caught, no one knew a Mary on the school run. That evening, Kai burst in, grinning, holding a stack of books from his summer reading list. Inside one, a note in delicate golden ink read, for Kai, with love, Mary. The most striking moment came from Jia. At dinner, she looked up and said matter-of-factly, Mama, the pretty lady came to my room last night. She said she loves us. She smelled like flowers. Mei Ling and Wei exchanged a glance, hearts racing. Jia's description matched the vision they hadn't shared. By Saturday, the Chen family was transformed. The children played with new energy, no longer weighed down by hunger. Wei, once broken by rejection, stood taller, ready to work. Mei Ling felt a joy she hadn't known in years, though tears came when she recalled their hardship. Neighbors noticed. Mrs. Thompson across the street said, Mei Ling, you're glowing. At church, Father Michael saw the family in their pew, radiating peace, and nodded knowingly. That Sunday, August 15th, was the Feast of the Assumption. St. Joseph's Church brimmed with parishioners, the air thick with polished wood and candle wax. Father Michael preached with fervor, Mary, the mother of Jesus, does not forget families in need. She walks with us, hears our cries. Mei Ling, sitting with her children, felt every word pierce her heart, as if meant for them. She noticed heads turning, parishioners watching with curiosity and wonder. After Mass, the church lawn buzzed. Mrs. Henderson, a retired teacher, approached Mei Ling. I don't know why, but for 3 nights, I've dreamed of a lady in blue. She kept saying, help Mei Ling's family. She pressed an envelope with $500 into Mei Ling's hands. Mei Ling, tears welling, nearly dropped it. Others followed. John Matthews, a retired carpenter, gave Wei his polished tool set. I've kept these for years. I feel you're meant to have them. Mrs. Carter offered to watch the children. I can't explain it, but I feel God's nudge. One by one, townspeople approached, driven by dreams, stirrings, or whispers in prayer, each compelled to help the Chens. By the time they walked home, Mei Ling and Wei carried groceries, tools, and the weight of a community mobilized. That afternoon, their home bustled. Neighbors dropped off casseroles and fresh produce. A farmer promised weekly eggs. A young couple left a gift card on the porch, unsigned. It was as if invisible hands wove a net to catch them. That night, as Mei Ling tucked Jia into bed, the girl whispered, "Mommy, the pretty lady said we're safe now." She kissed my forehead. Mei Ling froze, heart pounding. Lian confided, "I think I saw her too. While doing homework, I smelled roses, like someone was there." Kai, usually reserved, said at dinner, "I'm not scared anymore. I think she's watching us." The children's words spread, to relatives, neighbors, schoolmates. Soon, whispers rippled through Willow Creek, "The Chens have seen something holy." The town began to buzz with stories of dreams and inexplicable urges to help, all pointing to the family on Maple Street. Not everyone in Willow Creek believed the Chen story. Some scoffed, calling it exaggeration, coincidence, or desperation clouding perception. But others, stirred by dreams, faint scents of roses, or inexplicable urges, began to wonder. By midweek, Father Michael's phone rang constantly. "Father, I had the same dream." "Father, I smelled roses in my kitchen." "Father, is it possible?" Cautious but moved, he advised, "Pray, stay close to Christ. If Mary is among us, the fruits will show it." For the Chens, the fruits were undeniable. Each day brought new provisions, food, clothes, kindnesses. Mei Ling no longer fretted over meals. Wei prepared for his new job, his toolbox filled. Lian, Kai, and Jia returned to school with supplies, their confidence restored. Most strikingly, Willow Creek itself transformed. Neighbors, once distant, helped one another. Estranged families returned to church. Acts of generosity spread like wildfire, as if the grace in the Chen household had spilled onto Maple Street, into pews, across the town. For the first time in decades, Willow Creek hummed with expectation, something unexplainable was unfolding. Early Sunday, August 16th, the Chens woke to an extraordinary moment. Mei Ling thought it was a dream, the scent of roses seeping through the walls. Wei stirred, whispering, "Do you smell that?" The fragrance filled every corner, sweet and unmistakable. The children padded into the living room, eyes wide. "Mom," Lian whispered, "it's her. She's here again." They gathered, and the air shifted. A soft light, like dawn through curtains, grew golden, warming their fears away. Mary appeared, radiant in white with her blue mantle, her face glowing with tenderness. This time, she stepped closer, silent as breath, standing among them like a mother. "My beloved children," her voice sang, "you have endured trials with faith, placing love before pride. For this, you are blessed." She touched Wei's shoulder, he trembled, as if electrified. "Wei, you will build again, not only for your family but for others. Through your craft, you will restore dignity to those who've lost it. One day, you will teach the young and broken, giving them hope through their hands." Wei's tears fell. "I don't deserve this," he whispered. Mary smiled. "Grace is never deserved. It is given." To Mei Ling, kneeling and weeping, she said, "Your courage as a mother carried your family through despair. Your faith will light the way for other women. You will gather families in need, help them rise, and remind them no one is abandoned by God. You will be a mother to many." Mei Ling shook her head. "How? I have nothing." "You have everything," Mary replied. "Love, offered freely, multiplies." Bending low, Mary touched the children's heads. Lian gasped, Kai stared in wonder, Jia giggled as if tickled by sunlight. "Lian," Mary said, "your heart will lead you to comfort the hurting, growing into a woman who strengthens the weak. Kai, your compassion, born of hunger, will guide you to heal many. Jia, your joy will remind all that God's love is near, even in darkness." The children, not fully understanding, felt the weight of her words. Mary's gaze encompassed them. "What you have received, share. Tell your story. Let others know heaven is near, that God's love is alive. This house will be a testimony, your lives a witness. Many will find hope through you." Her words burned like fire and light. Lily whispered, "Don't go," reaching for the mantle. Mary kissed her forehead, then raised her hands in blessing. "I will always be near. When you doubt, remember the roses. When you despair, remember this night." Slowly, the light faded, the rose scent lingering in the ordinary yet transformed living room. The Chens knelt in silence, hearts overwhelmed, tears flowing. Wei broke the stillness. "She gave us a mission." Mei Ling gripped his hand, voice firm. "Then we'll do it, whatever it costs." They understood, their survival had become a calling, witnesses chosen to carry hope beyond Willow Creek. 5 years later, the Maple Street house was unrecognizable. Repaired siding, a neat yard, and laughter spilling from open windows marked a beacon in Willow Creek and beyond. Wei stood in the backyard where his workshop had burned. In its place stood a bustling training center. Young men and women, dropouts, recovering addicts, the unemployed, Learned woodworking under Way's guidance, restoring furniture, building cabinets, crafting church pews. This place gave me my life back, one trainee told a local reporter. Mr. Chen didn't just teach me how to use a saw. He taught me I still had worth, one trainee said. The Hands of Hope workshop, built where Way's old shop had burned, became a Midwest model for vocational training. Way, once broken by loss, now carried quiet authority as a master craftsman and mentor. Inside the house, Mei-Ling fulfilled Mary's calling. She started small, inviting neighborhood families to share meals and stories in her living room. The effort grew rapidly, donations and volunteers poured in, birthing Hope for Families, a nonprofit serving hundreds across Kansas with food, counseling, tutoring, and support groups. Mei-Ling spoke at Catholic and interfaith conferences, always beginning, 5 years ago, I was a mother with empty cupboards and desperation. Today, I tell you God never abandons his children. The Chen children grew into Mary's words. Lien, now 17, studied social work. I want to help families like we were helped, she told her counselor, volunteering at Hope for Families to mentor kids hiding their shame as she once did. Kai, 15, carried biology and anatomy books, dreaming of medicine. I want to be a doctor so no one feels helpless in pain, he said, his compassion rooted in their hungry days. Jia, now 9, radiated kindness, comforting outcast classmates. She startled her parents with profound words, Mama, the lady still comes sometimes. I don't see her, but I feel her. Willow Creek transformed. St. Joseph's overflowed on Sundays, neighbors multiplied acts of charity, and strangers noted, people here care about each other. The Chen story spread, diocesan papers, national magazines, documentaries. Pilgrims visited the Maple Street house where roses once filled the air, seeking peace or healing. Many left with an unexplainable calm, some converted at St. Joseph's. Father Michael, now Freilier, documented the apparitions, provisions, and transformations, submitting a dossier to the diocese. The church investigated cautiously, but consistent testimonies and widespread impact were compelling. One evening, Mei-Ling and Wei stood in their living room, surrounded by photos, workshop students, helped families, their children thriving. Can you believe, Mei-Ling whispered, 3 days of hunger led to this? Wei pulled her close, awestruck. We thought we were abandoned, but we were being prepared. The truest miracle was that a family on the brink became a beacon for thousands. The Chen story, once whispered, echoed in churches, schools, and homes across America, not just survival, but a testament that heaven breaks through in the darkest nights. Neighbors sometimes swore they smelled roses drifting across Maple Street. The Chen's journey proved miracles aren't ancient tales but unfold in quiet towns, ordinary homes, and lives that hold faith amid loss. If this story moves you, let it remind you hope is near, and God's love nearer still.